Welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow, India's only daily television platform for small businesses. We bring you the right information here on the Leaders of Tomorrow to empower you, the SME entrepreneur. Tonight on the show, two influencer conversations. First up, bringing you a conversation and an interview with Speciality Restaurants, and on the other side of a short break, Razorpay, a fintech company, what they're up to. That's our interview tonight. Our first, the influencer conversation tonight is with Speciality Restaurants, which, like the name suggests, has a variety of cuisines and restaurant brands across India. I spoke with Avik Chatterjee, who's the son of the founder Anjan Chatterjee, to really understand what they're doing when it comes to innovating and standing out in a crowded market. I also spoke to him about what it means to be the second generation of a family that's been involved in the food generation for a while now, and his advice for other young entrepreneurs and businessmen like himself. Here's what he had to say. Take a listen. Thanks for speaking with us, Avik, here on the Leaders of Tomorrow. I want to talk to you first and foremost about the fact that you, of course, are a young entrepreneur. You're someone who has these multiple brands that you're associated with and that you have under your belt. So just give us a brief sense of what your own journey has been like in the hospitality industry.
Sure. Firstly, thank you for having me here. And my first venture into the hospitality industry was this midnight delivery service. So we delivered food from so basically it was a 24-hour food delivery service, and it was called Mad Bites. And I started that when I was 18 years old, ran it for about 2 years, and somehow I didn't succeed. And that actually helped me then bring out new ideas, and hence Hoppipola exists. So I did Hoppipola as the first venture with the company, and alongside I did Zoodles, Asian fine wok delivery service, and henceforth I've done a brand called Gong just last year and a brand called Poh in Kamla Mill in Bombay itself. Okay. So that's been my journey with the brands so far.
Okay, so I will come back and talk about perhaps what some of your biggest learnings have been. But I want to talk about the hospitality space. It's always dynamic. There are always new brands coming about. There are always new conversations happening. But my question to you really is as far as GST, that perhaps was one of the biggest things that had an impact on the hospitality space. It has become a slightly less expensive, if I can call it that, to now go out and have a meal. But that said, GST has had an impact on your industry.
Yes, it has. So with talking about GST, there are two sides to it. One is the side where the customer sees in terms of the tax percentage. It started off with 18% and then it came down to 5%, which is brilliant for customers. But on the backside, in terms of our backside of the restauranting hit, we had an increase of 18% in our capex or setting up a new restaurant, which is very tough for us now. So the ROI time now increases automatically. So that's kind of a sad thing for us. So it's around 18% more expensive to set up a new restaurant. So that's something that we weren't too happy with.
Okay, so are you perhaps in conversation with the government? I do know that a lot of industry bodies, for instance, have been saying it has to come down further. There's of course service charge also, which is a conversation that's been doing the rounds. So are you maybe talking to the government? Anything that you can tell our viewers?
So what we're doing as a restauranting industry together, NRAI, we're in talks with the government. We've had multiple meetings and association meetings just to discuss and try to ease it out for us, because we are an industry that gives employment to unskilled labor on a really, really large scale. And since that unskilled labor really puts in their efforts, whatever little they do, service charge is something that they do deserve. And the government says that some people or some restaurateurs were having unfair business by keeping service charge and not passing it down to the employees itself. So that's something where there is a bit of a confusion, where people now think service charge is not a good thing to pay up for, whereas we believe that we are giving you good service, and if at all our service does deserve an appreciation, then why not have the service charge?
Okay, you were talking about ROI earlier. I just want to come back to that.
Sure.
Do you have enough investors who are interested in this business? One would assume there are enough people who are willing to fund someone who has a great or a different idea. Is that true? And if yes, perhaps for our viewers, the 2 or 3 things that you would suggest that they keep in mind if they're approaching someone for funding.
The idea is, or the challenge that we take, is to keep our cost really low in terms of our food cost, our staffing cost, so that it helps you get your return on investment a little sooner. So I would suggest or advise to anyone who gets in this space that keep your model very light. Don't get it too heavy, don't invest too much in your interiors, don't fly out installations from abroad, pay heavy duty on it. I think you can start smarter by being a little more creative or create nostalgia rather than create something too modern or fancy.
One of the things I want to ask you is about adherence to regulation, whether it's food safety standards or fire safety standards. Do you feel perhaps there's enough understanding of why it is important for companies to stick to these regulations, to follow the guidelines that have been set, particularly because the cost of not adhering to those is much more expensive than the cost involved in following these rules?
Yeah, but the thing is, what I would suggest is everyone should get their audits in place in terms of customer is the biggest person in our industry, right? So you have to mention their safety standards. You have to let them be aware of where they're coming into, if they're in a safe environment or not. So hence, fire, food, safety regulations is something that we take really, really seriously so that we don't at any point harm our customers in any such way.
Okay. But do you think there's enough understanding of why these rules need to be followed, especially when you have small mom and pop hotels, restaurants coming up in neighborhoods? Do you see there's enough understanding of that?
I think there could be room for more understanding or awareness in this area because I don't see that everyone's compliant with their fire or health safeties. And I think that's something that we need to build awareness for the mom and pops. And for new restaurateurs, I would suggest that everyone get their act together in terms of getting your safety, health, fire, all of that together, so that at least the customer has more confidence while he comes to your store.
Okay. You have about 5,000 odd employees under your roof. So my question to you really is about training. Do you undertake training in-house? And if yes, there's obviously a cost involved. So, maybe use that experience to talk to our to talk to our viewers about the cost that is associated with training and why it's necessary.
Okay, so what we're doing is we're almost on the verge of getting a training institute in Calcutta itself, where we would be homegrowing and nurturing staff and unskilled labor to create them or convert them into skilled labor, and that is something that we're really working towards. But otherwise, in cities, we do have VCs. We have a lot of voice calls and training modules ready. For example, with our chefs and keeping our quality in control, we do have recipe videos similar to the ones that you see in YouTube. So it's very interactive for people to learn as well. So that's something that we're taking really strong attention on.
You're someone who's fairly active when it comes to using social media as a branding and marketing tool for your own businesses. But my question to you is slightly different. If you see any common mistakes that are perhaps being done online and talk to our viewers about what perhaps they should not be doing when it comes to building a brand for their businesses online.
So to communicate on social media, it's a skill by itself. So what I'd suggest for new entrants would be that keep up to the tone of your brand. Do not put up a lot of random stuff that does not connect to your brand, or try to make random jokes which is not directly related to your brand, because that gets the engagement lower and people don't like seeing something that's not connected to what they would get or see inside your outlet. So I'd suggest people should get their templates in space and get their tone of voice and stick to it rather than diverting too much.
Okay. I just want to go back to the question as far as training and training of manpower. The government has launched Skilling India, which is largely targeted towards, I do know, the tech space.
Yes.
But the programs that are being instituted under that are for the service industry. Has that been of any use? Would you suggest that a small business perhaps looks at how it can maybe tie up with some of these programs to ensure that it's not spending money in-house to train people?
I think how much ever the government could help, you need to have your own set of training, because the brand does not connect to every regular training. The brand needs to be connecting to what you want to do inside. For example, you could say that basic training for fine dine could be there, but for brands such as Hoppipola, we want people or our members of the staff to be a little more friendly, and that just comes with a personal connect. So I think every employer who gets or sets up a new restaurant with his team needs to be hand in hand talking to their operational staff so that they understand what they're doing inside, rather than they not having a connect with the brand itself.
So let's rewind and go back to something that you were saying at the beginning of this interview. You were talking about your journey and your learnings as an entrepreneur. And I want to talk to you about the fact that you're a young entrepreneur, you're under 30. Has that been an advantage in the hospitality industry? Has that perhaps at any point been a challenge? And if yes, maybe use that to talk about what your learnings have been.
So with a brand, I think it goes hand in hand with the brands that you work in. For Hoppipola, it was way easier for me because my TG is directly reflecting probably me and my age. So it was easier for me to connect with them in terms of setting up the menu, getting the food trends, getting the party trends, getting the drink trends. So for Hoppipola it was, well, the challenge I faced with Poh was because the TG was for a very, very older crowd and very exposed crowd. So hence the challenge came there, where I didn't understand that market completely, but well, I did have to grasp a lot while I was working on the job, compared to a brand like Hoppipola, where I know the current trends and I know what young people are looking out for. So it was easier here.
Okay, so but it helps in such situations and circumstances. Definitely have a team then that understands each of these different markets.
So yes, we do have a team, and all our team members are under 30 years old. So what happens there is that everyone comes up with new ideas for the youth itself. So that's something that is helpful for us to grow.
Okay, my last question to you then. You do have, of course, multiple brands that are under your belt. Yeah. Is the kind of premium that you're able to command only in a tier 1? How about the rest of India? If someone watching the show says, I want to have a brand like this in a tier 3, tier 4, do you think those markets are catching up, or will it take much longer?
I think the tier 2 cities are brilliant in terms of a market currently, because a brand like Hoppipola has great recall value there. Because what we've seen in terms of our customer base, we've seen students coming in from different various cities, coming into major cities like Bangalore, Mumbai and Chennai. So what happens is, these students go back to their tier 2 cities and start talking about the brand. So what happens is, there's some kind of a wait for Hoppipola to come into their cities. So we'd be surely looking forward to such requests.
All right, wish you all the very best for that, Avik.
Thank you so much
for speaking with us.
Cheers, thanks.
Time for a break. Razorpay is up next. We'll tell you what it means to be a converged payment solution company. That's coming up on the other side. Just stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow, and tonight our second The Influencer conversation is with Razorpay. We talk very often here on the Leaders of Tomorrow with companies that are at the intersection of finance and technology. One such company tonight is Razorpay, but they call themselves a converged payment solutions company. What does that mean? What does it mean to try and convince more and more small businesses to get on to the digital bandwagon, and what it means when it comes to the future here of fintech in India? All that and more in this conversation with Razorpay. Do take a listen. Harshil, thanks for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. You are what is called a converged digital payment service provider. So my question to you is to explain to our viewers what the model is and what Razorpay does.
Thanks for inviting me over. So Razorpay is a three-year-old organization. We started as a pure payment gateway. Basically, we help businesses in India accept payments of all sorts, right from credit card to debit card to net banking to wallets. We serve more than 85,000 merchants on the platform right now, right from young stage startups to large enterprises like the likes of DSP BlackRock, Yatra, Vunik, and the likes. Overall, I think we have evolved in our journey in the last 1 year from being just a pure payment gateway to a fully converged payment solution, which basically means we do everything right from acceptance of payments to disbursements of payments and anything to do with the life cycle of the payment journey in the digital payment space right now.
You evolved from a payments, gateway to Razorpay 2.0, Harshil. So maybe you can also give us the thought process, the reasoning behind that.
Sure. I think the way it started is that when we started as a pure payment gateway, and while we were talking to our merchants who we were already serving, we found that payment acceptance is just part of a problem. A merchant today just doesn't need to accept payments digitally. He also needs to disperse them to his sub-vendors, to his suppliers. He needs to raise invoices to manage the life cycle of the payments. He needs to accept bank transfers. So there are a whole lot of problems in and around the payment acceptance, and that's why we evolved ourselves from being just a payment gateway solution to doing everything associated with acceptance of payments, right from the moment the payment is accepted by a business to the moment it is dispersed to the end solution.
I want to really talk about Aadhaar at this point. It's still evolving. There are a lot of changes that we're still seeing. But my question to you is the lack of clarity, which a lot of companies are seeing is really the bone of contention when it comes to doing business in an environment and scenario where you have Aadhaar. Some companies pushing for it, some companies saying that you, of course, have this huge confusion and back and forth. What are your views really on that?
I personally believe that Aadhaar, the way it was intended, is definitely beneficial to the ecosystem. It enables a lot of different use cases and needs that were not possible because of the lack of a unique identity in India. Most of the concerns that people have raised on Aadhaar can be solved if it is made voluntary, the way it was originally intended to be. Because of the benefits of Aadhaar, even if it is voluntary, most people will still opt for it. As a fintech organization, Aadhaar enables a lot of use cases. For example, we recently launched eNACH, which allows you to give a consent using Aadhaar for auto debit of your bank account for things like electricity bill payments, utility bill payments, credit card bill payments and stuff. So that was not possible without Aadhaar, because before Aadhaar, you had to physically sign a document to give those consents. So use cases like these will definitely go a long way in improving the digital payment infrastructure of the country. And all of these are only possible if something like Aadhaar stays.
Along with Aadhaar, one must also talk about UPI, and UPI has definitely hit the share of private mobile wallets. Harshil, what's your view on that? Have you seen any impact, and really, how you perhaps are working in an environment that's changing so rapidly?
Yeah, so we recently published data around how we are seeing UPI pitching against wallets. We, as a platform, we enable acceptance of both UPI as well as a lot of mobile wallets. And we have seen how that trend has changed as UPI has grown. So from a basic perspective, UPI directly competes with wallets, because if you look at the average transaction size, UPI's average transaction size is almost same as wallets. It is being used for low transaction size, high frequency transactions, which is where wallets operate. In the last 3 months, especially after the KYC deadline came in, we've seen a significant decline in the usage of wallets and a significant uptake in the usage of UPI. And the reason is simple. I mean, if I had to do a KYC for a wallet, why not I use my bank account to do the transaction? Because I've already done my KYC for my bank account, so why not I rather use that for a transaction? And also the entry of global players like Google, Thales, and recently WhatsApp in the UPI bandwagon is definitely pushing the case for UPI, increasing the awareness around UPI, and the kind of reach these global players have that can definitely drive up the adoption of UPI much faster than mobile wallets were ever able to.
When we're talking about digitization, I'm sure that the behavior of SMEs and entrepreneurs is very different from the larger peers. So maybe you can help us understand how that behavior is so different, and also if you can run us through some of those specific products that you have for small businesses.
Sure. So our whole organization is primarily targeted towards MSMEs and mid-scale companies. I think from day one we wanted to solve out problems of digital payment acceptance for startups and MSMEs. So we offer a bunch of products there, right from the core payment gateway, which enables an MSME to start accepting digital payments either through a website or through our link-based system, through which they can generate payment links and send to their customers and accept payments digitally. We also provide a full invoicing management solution through which a small scale business can raise invoices, and those invoices can be paid digitally by their customers. Similarly, we also offer what we call a smart collect solution, which allows a business to accept payments via NEFT, RTGS, IMPS through our platform as well. So there are a whole bunch of these products which go around to solve different use cases for different kind of small businesses. The end goal being converting the cash-based acceptance to digital payment acceptance. At the same time, we also provide a disbursement solution through which a business can disperse the payments collected via Razorpay to their sub-vendors or suppliers without bringing into their bank account and then taking care of that manually. And a lot of it has to do with, of course, with the awareness that is being generated by government and by the private players. But a lot of it has also to do with the infrastructural changes. For example, if you look at GST, since GST makes your tax filing digital, if your payment acceptance and disbursement process is digital as well, it makes whole tax filing process much more simpler than if you were doing it manually. So a lot of these infrastructural changes are also playing an increasingly important role. And I think today, if any small business or medium business is even a little bit informed and aware of what's happening in the ecosystem, they are definitely looking at digital payment acceptance.
So has it been difficult, you would say, to try and get small businesses to really convert to the entire digital bandwagon, particularly where finance and financial transactions are concerned?
It's not difficult. I mean, yes, there are definitely challenges. The MSME base in India is pretty spread out spread out over the whole geography, and sometimes it's difficult to reach them directly. I think that's where the government programs around awareness help us a lot. We also do a lot of programs from ourselves, so we conduct events in a lot of tier 2 cities and tier 3 cities to generate awareness around how digital payment acceptance can make their business more efficient. The dependence on cash needs to go down if they have to make the business more efficient and scale up faster. And a lot of times we bring a lot of these MSMEs together into one room, do an event, allow them to network with each other. So I think such programs from other players and especially from government will go a long way in pursuing the awareness. I think awareness is the key thing. If an MSME is aware around how digital payment acceptance helps him in making his business more efficient. In general, we have seen very low reluctance in switching to digital once he's informed of the benefits of it.
All right, Harshil, time for one last question in terms of what the future roadmap is looking like.
We are looking to double our headcount by the end of this calendar year, and that requires us to significantly scale up our hiring process. From a Razorpay standpoint, we truly believe that digital payments is the way to go. We are right now just at the brink of the whole digital payments wave. A lot of ecosystem changes are happening, and we are very excited to be a part of those changes. For example, we were the first ones to launch UPI. We were the first ones to launch support for subscription payments. So as Razorpay, we have always been the first to bring out anything new in the market. Right now, our focus is to further work with the government and with the regulatory bodies in launching newer payment instruments. We are focusing on Bharat QR, eNACH, which is digital mandates, around Aadhaar-based payment options, and things like that. So our focus, at least for the next couple of years, will be to take advantage of the ecosystem changes that are happening around digital payments, take advantage of the new initiatives from the government, and use them to build products to solve the problems of the new age SME.
Thanks very much for speaking with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. All right, that's our show tonight. If you have any feedback for us, we love hearing from you. Or if you want to be featured here on the show, like either of our two, the influencer conversations tonight, here's how you get in touch. leadersoftomorrowtimesgroup.com is our email ID. On social media, tweet at me personally at Sunanda_J or LOT_ET now is our official Twitter handle. You can also get in touch with us on our Facebook page, Leaders of Tomorrow on ET Now. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.